Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this Horizon Europe Marie Skłodowska-Curie Actions Doctoral Networks 2025 Call Information event. I'm Audrey Arfi. I'm a head of sector in the MSCA Doctoral Networks unit in the European Research Executive Agency, and I have the pleasure to guide you through this information session today, together with my colleagues here with me, Sohail Luka, who is a policy officer in the MSCA unit of the European Commission's Directorate Generals for Education, Youth, Sport and Culture. Julien Jordani is with us as well today, co-coordinator in the MSCA Doctoral Networks unit in the Research Executive Agency. And Michaela Bitsakis, head of sector as well in the MSCA Doctoral Networks unit of the RIA. So first of all, let me invite you to a very short poll to know a bit who you are and who is attending this event today with us. So you can go to slido.com, use the hashtag DN2025, or use the QR code appearing on the screen. And you have in Slido two different tabs, so one for the poll with very short questions and another one in case you already want to submit all your questions. So please feel free to submit as many questions as you want. Of course, we cannot guarantee that we will have time to answer all of them today, but we will make sure to reply to most of them and to reply to all the other ones in writing. So in case you have technical issues, feel free also to contact the help desk of the RTD platform, but hopefully everything should be fine. I have now the pleasure to introduce the first speaker, Klaus Haupt, who is the head of unit of the MSCA Doctoral Networks in the European Research Executive Agency, and he will give us some introductory remarks. Klaus, the floor is yours.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome and thank you for your participation.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, dear stakeholders of the Marie Skłodowska-Curie Actions, dear national contact points, dear colleagues from the European Commission. On behalf of the European Research Executive Agency in Brussels, I would like to welcome you to this information event on the 2025 call for proposals for the doctoral networks under Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, dear stakeholders of the Marie Skłodowska-Curie Actions, dear national contact points, dear colleagues from the European Commission. On behalf of the European Research Executive Agency in Brussels, I would like to welcome you to this information event on the 2025 call for proposals for the doctoral networks under the Marie Skłodowska-Curie Actions. The objectives of this morning's event is simple. We want to inform you as potential applicants and as stakeholders about the requirements of the fifth doctoral networks call in Horizon Europe that has been opened on the 28th of May. I would like to welcome in particular the MSCA national contact points to this information meeting. Thank you very much for your presence. You play an essential role in supporting applicants and in guiding the MSCA beneficiaries throughout the implementation of their project. I would also like to extend our welcome to the colleagues from the European Commission, namely to Claire Morel and to Sohail Luka from the MSCA Policy Unit at the European Commission's Directorate General for Education, Youth, Sport and Culture. The information event this morning comes at a very good point of time. The call was launched only 4 weeks ago, with a deadline for the submission of proposals on the 25th of November. I'm glad to say that all relevant documents have been published and on the funding and tenders portal, including the work program, the submission forms and the guide for applicants. So as potential applicants, you have all the elements at your fingertips to prepare and to submit a high-quality proposal that can ultimately be funded. As participants in a successful project, you will give doctoral candidates access to excellent research training opportunities. You will support the fellows' careers development, you will provide guidance and mentorship, and you will allow the fellows to grow professionally. You will engage with a broad network of international researchers and institutions, fostering interdisciplinary and intersectoral collaboration, and lasting relationships with leading experts and institutions. You will also contribute to high-impact research projects, advancing scientific knowledge and innovation. The doctoral networks to continue to be the flagship component of MSCA. With the accession of the United Kingdom to MSCA in 2024, the available budget for the doctoral networks call has been increased by 1/3. For this year's call, the budget stands at almost 600 million euros and corresponds to what we had in the year before. With this budget, we expect to fund over 150 doctoral networks, which, in line with the bottom-up character of the action, will span all scientific fields and areas. We expect to contribute to the training and skills of more than 2,000 doctoral candidates. Under the first 3 calls for proposals for doctoral networks in Horizon Europe, we received approximately 1,100 proposals per call. With the association of the UK to the program in 2024, the number of applications increased to more than 1,400 for last year's call. We are very glad to see that the program continues to generate a lot of interest and to attract high numbers of excellent proposals. Joint doctorates and industrial doctorates constitute a particular priority for us. The take-up for these 2 implementation modes continues to be lower than what we expected. The trend of submitted and retained joint and industrial doctorates has been declining over the past years. In 2022, 17.4% of the main listed projects were joint doctorates and industrial doctorates. This percentage dropped to 10.7% under the 2024 call. Today's information event will clarify once more the incentive for IDs and for JDs that we have been putting in place over the past years. So there is a clear invitation from our side to you to get more actively engaged in these 2 implementation modes, which can help you enhance your academic offerings, strengthen your research capabilities, foster sustainable international collaborations, and build strategic connections with the non-academic sector. Overall, there is substantial stability between last year's edition and the call that we are promoting today. The maximum grant size still stands at 540 person month per project, as it used to be the case for Horizon 2020. For joint doctorates, given the particular complexity of this implementation mode, the maximum fellowship duration will remain at up to 48 months, with an overall project duration of 60 months. The unit cost for the living and for the mobility allowance for the fellows were already increased last year by 18% to compensate for the inflation and to make sure that the program remains attractive. The agenda of the information event is relatively straightforward. We will present to you the specificities of the 2025 Doctoral Networks call, with a particular emphasis on the few novelties and underlining once more also the incentives for the joint and for the industrial doctorates. The second part of the information event will feature a Q&A session, and you already had the opportunity to ask questions through Slido in advance of the event, and you will have the further opportunity to ask questions this morning. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your attention. I wish you a very fruitful information event and hope to see many of you involved in the preparation of excellent project proposals for the doctoral networks.
Thank you very much, Klaus, for your warm welcome and for giving us an overview of today's event. So I would like to remind you that there is a short poll in Slido using the hashtag DN2025 that I really invite you to take. We will present the results of this short poll after the introduction. So let me now introduce the next speaker, and sorry for the little technical hiccup previously. So Claire Morel, who is the head of the MSCA Policy Unit in the European Commission's Directorate General for Education, Youth, Sport and Culture. And she will give now some more policy context and background information on the MSCA program, and in particular on doctoral networks. Claire, the floor is yours.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome and thank you for your participation in this event today. The Marie Skłodowska-Curie action, or MSCA in short, are the main instrument at EU level to develop, attract, and retain talents in research and innovation. It's a program that has a substantial positive impact on the career path of individual researchers at doctoral, but also postdoctoral levels, as demonstrated through the end of fellowship surveys that our researchers have to fill in, especially the one at the end of the fellowship, but also 2 years after the fellowship. The program has a positive impact also on participating institutions and on the European research and innovation as a whole. It has 5 complementary actions, and one of them is the MSCA Doctoral Network that we have designed in a way that it fosters excellence, it promotes international, intersectoral and interdisciplinary mobility and cooperation, and it prepares fellows to be accomplished researchers fit for academic but also non-academic careers. These features were introduced by design in order to achieve wider strategies of the EU in competitiveness, in sustainability, equity, and in international cooperation. And accordingly, the funded projects should play a crucial role as building blocks towards achieving these strategies, while at the same time advancing knowledge in all fields, thanks to the bottom-up nature of MSCA that does not target any particular research field. So it's open to all research fields. Like all MSCA, doctoral network projects much reflect the principle which the MSCA stands for, like fair, transparent recruitment, proper supervision, transferable skills, career development, open science, equality, inclusion, and building sustainable links amongst research and innovation partners within Europe and beyond. So now, more than ever, Europe stands out as a haven for scientific freedom, which is another important principle to which MSCA closely adheres. In addition, one notable feature for our doctoral networks is the extensive involvement and the close integration of the non-academic sector. And in this context, let me highlight one of the most strategic benefits of MSCA doctoral networks. This is what we call the structuring impact. Here we're talking about the positive impacts of MSCA that last and that are maintained beyond the lifetime of the project. It's the impact on the academic and the non-academic organizations that are involved by widely spreading excellence and setting standards for high-quality training programs, and the positive impact that participation in MSCA can bring in terms of attractiveness and in terms of international visibility. So as you might know, we continuously try to improve our MSCA doctoral network actions from one year to the other, and even more so now because we are currently reflecting on the next generation of programs. So to make the program more strategic and to provide more flexibility and simplification. So every year we receive inputs from project partners, from national contact points, from EU member state representatives, and we update our MSCA work program accordingly. And because we are determined to maintain our doctoral network program as at the best and the most strategic in the world. So this is already the 5th Horizon Europe call for doctoral networks action, and I can say that what you are seeing is at its best. For example, since the first call in 2021, we have introduced a number of improvements, all of which you will find in this year's call, and that my colleagues will present to you throughout the morning. Amongst them, there are 2 important incentives that we introduced in the 2020 call, namely increasing the grant size for standard doctoral networks and increasing the duration of joint doctorates by an additional year. With the 2024 call, it became also possible now to have joint or multiple degrees awarded by one university from a non-associated third country together with a university from an EU or associated country, and that's something new. It means, for example, that it will now be possible to have a joint doctorate between a university in the EU with a university, let's say, in Japan, Colombia, Australia, or Senegal. So we are very excited about the Doctoral Network call this year, and I hope that you will also feel the same after the rich information and discussion sessions which are planned for this morning. On behalf of the European Commission, I thank you again, and I wish you a fruitful meeting, and I hope that it will lead to a lot of high-quality application. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Claire, for your insightful remarks and introduction. And let's now move to the poll and to see a bit who is attending this event this morning. So you had the first questions about from which country you're joining us. And it seems that we have many participants from Germany, Belgium, the Netherlands, Finland, Italy, so EU member states, but also associated countries, the UK, but also other third countries. I see South Africa and many different countries represented today. So we can see that this very competitive call is attracting a lot of different partners, and there is this international dimension that we request also at proposal level. So the next question of the poll was about who are you? So are you a potential applicant or other stakeholder or a national contact point? EC staff, so our colleagues are also joining and attending the event. We can see that the majority of you are potential applicants, which is good because this info session will really give you all the information you need to prepare your application. We also have a number of national contact points following the event, and don't hesitate to contact them as well, because they are also organizing complementary events to prepare your proposals, such as hands-on training on how to write a good DN proposal. So I very much encourage you also to contact them in case of any support that you may need. The next question was about what is your organization type that you are representing today. The majority of you apparently are from higher secondary education establishments from the academic sector, but we also have a good number of research organizations, private for-profit entities, since we have a strong involvement of the non-academic sector in doctoral networks. You will see in the presentation afterwards, public bodies as well, and non-profit organizations. So the last question of this poll was about if you had any previous experience in MSCA Doctoral Networks call. And it seems that this year we have a very good number of newcomers. So 56% of you don't have any previous experience with DN call, while 44% had an experience already. So this is very good because for newcomers, you will really see all the requirements, the eligibility conditions, and what you need to address in your proposal. While for all the potential applicants with previous experience, it will be also a good opportunity to have a refresher and to know also a bit more about all the benefits you could have in applying to industrial doctorates and joint doctorates programs. So let me also now give you a quick reminder on the agenda of today that Klaus mentioned earlier as well. But we will have now a full presentation of the DN 2025 call with a policy introduction first, and then a detailed presentation in 3 different parts, followed by a very short break before starting the Q&A session. And this Q&A session is with Slido, so please feel free to still submit all your questions you may have in Slido using the QR code appearing on the screen. Just to remind you as well that we may not take 2 specific questions, so in those cases we will reply in writing to make sure that we address all elements of your questions. And if you could also double check the already submitted questions in Slido so that we don't have too many duplicates. We will also have 2 short coffee breaks, so one before the last part of the main presentation and another one in the middle of the Q&A session. So now let's start the main content of this info session, and let's start with a policy introduction given by Sohail Luka. Sohail?
Thank you, Audrey, and good morning, everybody. If we go to the next slide, you see that there are a set of principles that are tightly connected to MSCA. Now, next year we are going to celebrate 30 years of MSCA, and throughout these years, MSCA developed a set of signature principles that when somebody says MSCA, it's immediately associated with it. Of course, there is the key business of MSCA, which is the training, skills, and career development. But also being bottom-up, meaning that all scientific disciplines and fields are welcome into MSCA, is a signature feature of MSCA. It's the excellence of these projects that counts most. The 3 I's, international, intersectoral, and interdisciplinary. MSCA is the most international part of Horizon Europe. Also, as Claire just mentioned, being intersectoral, meaning having the academic and the non-academic sectors working together, is a very prominent feature of our projects. The interdisciplinarity is very important. We insist on having attractive working and employment conditions for the fellows, and we also have a strong emphasis on the collaboration with industry. One important aspect of the projects of MSCA is the structuring impact, meaning that it's an impact that you would feel beyond the lifetime of the project and beyond the sphere of the project. Now, all this is part of a bigger puzzle, which is Horizon Europe, the strategy and budget for research and innovation for the EU. And within Horizon Europe, we are under Pillar 1, which is called Excellent Science. Doesn't mean that the other pillars are not excellent. However, it means that for us, and the ERC as well, as you might know, excellence is the number 1 criterion when we look at these projects. Now, if we zoom further on Pillar 1, we see that Horizon Europe dedicated 6.6 billion euros to MSCA. And if we actually look a bit down the slide, we see that since 2012, we had 20 Nobel Prize winners who were either MSCA fellows or supervisors. Now, this is a remarkable number. It's remarkable, of course, because, it's nice. It's 20 Nobel laureates. But also, it's a testimony for the power of being a bottom-up action. And I hope that after today's Info Day, you will help us increase this number next year and the year after. Now, we take the budget that you saw, the 6.6 billion, the principles of MSCA, and the strategy that is guiding us, which is Horizon Europe, R&I policy of the EU. And we put this together and have 5 actions that bring these principles to life. One of them is doctoral networks, and it is actually having the lion's share of the budget. It's 50% of the MSCA budget. And it is on doctoral networks that this morning until midday or so that we are taking you on this journey of getting more and more into details on how to also get into understanding the policy background, which will be, of course, the overall, riding, end game in there, and also how to write a successful proposal and, meet the objectives of the call. With that, I give it back to you, Audrey.
Thank you very much, Sohail, for this nice policy introduction, which gives you a bit the taste of what MSCA is as a program dedicated to excellence research. But now we may need also to know a bit more about doctoral networks in details. And for this, I will give the floor to Julien, who will give you some more information about doctoral networks. Julien?
Thank you, Audrey. So now we're going into more technical details about doctoral networks. So if we go to the next slide, in a nutshell, what is a doctoral network project? Doctoral network project is one consortium that proposes an overall research project that has some coherence, of course, with interlinked individual PhD research projects that will be undergone by doctoral candidates that the project will recruit later on. So the consortium proposes a project, and when the project is funded, then they will recruit doctoral candidates. Now, it's important to notice that this is a consortium-led project. The reason why we're saying that is that this is not a fellowship for an individual doctoral PhD students that wants to get funded for their research. It is a consortium-led project. If we go back to the previous slide, what's in it for the doctoral candidates? So the idea, and we will call them DCs in the next slides. So the point is to train doctoral candidates to increase, back again. Yes, to increase their career opportunities and employabilities. The idea is really to help them, make it easier for them to get a job and to stay in this job. This is done primarily through giving them individual research projects, of course, but it's also through giving them research-related and also transferable skills training. So there's these two areas, the research and the training. So training through research, of course, but also other kinds of formal training. The idea, as was said before as well, with the strong involvement of the non-academic sector, is to have intersectoral secondments so that the fellows see how things are done in different sectors, in different areas, different institutions. The idea is to have the international mobility. By design, we will develop a bit later on. These fellows need to be mobile in order to start their work in the doctoral network. The idea is to have for the fellows a career development plan. So every once in a while, they have to sit down, think what they want to do next, and to have the network cater for their career plans. And of course, these fellows, they are not, left in the dark. They have to be supervised appropriately. So these are, in a nutshell, the expected output for the doctoral candidates. Now, that's for doctoral candidates. What's in it for you as potential applicants from the organizations? So first and foremost is to bring in new talent. The idea is that you would recruit excellent doctoral candidates through a fair, open, and transparent recruitment process. A bit more on that later. The idea is also to enhance your capacity as a research organization, strengthening your research and innovation capacity. Thanks. The idea is also to foster networking. So the idea is to have more cooperation, knowledge transfers between the different sectors, between the different disciplines, the different organizations that compose the network. And the idea as well is to improve the quality, the relevance, and the sustainability of PhD programs. So relevance in terms of how it actually helps fellows to, get in the job market, be it in the academic sector or the non-academic sector, through this doctoral networks program. Then, of course, there's a reason why we do that for Europe as well. And the main idea, the main objective of MSCAs in general, not only doctoral networks is to strengthen Europe's human capital, right? So through different ways, the idea is to make Europe as an attractive place for researchers' career, to offer them better employment conditions. This is done through the conditions offered to doctoral candidates. The idea is to foster talent and knowledge circulation through all the mobilities that we mentioned before, increase Europe's attractiveness, as Claire mentioned, to make it a haven for researchers, increase the competitiveness of Europe in a sustainable way, increase the collaboration between different organizations and different sectors, and also to foster open science, innovation, and entrepreneurship. Now, in terms of strategic values of doctoral networks, there is a structuring effect that was mentioned before. The idea is that, yes, you get funded for implementing a certain project, but the idea is that to have a structuring effect has a positive impact lasting beyond the lifetime of the project, with a ripple effect catalyzing institutional culture changes through different ways of training researchers, different ways of recruiting them, structuring the European higher education areas and the ERA, the European Research Area. Being a trendsetter, with emphasis on transferable skills to enable the fellows to have jobs in different areas through these transferable skills. A strong emphasis on integrating the non-academic sector into the networks, the career development plan, the guidelines on supervision, and the Green Charter. Those are documents that you will have a link to on the slides at the end of the presentation. A focus on attractiveness of the European programs, so with a wider access to courses, expertise, and infrastructure in Europe, to increase the skills for innovation and long-term employability of the fellows, and the better visibility of European doctoral programs in the world. Interestingly, there was a study, a very large study that was launched 2 years ago, right, Audrey? So it was 2 years ago, on the innovative dimension of MSCA ITNs. So ITNs were, for the newcomers in the attending, those were doctoral networks in Horizon 2020. They were called Innovative Training Network. So that was in H 2020. And what that study showed, looking at the different projects that were funded, is that the European industrial doctorates, which are now the industrial doctorates, so the IDs now in Horizon Europe, that beneficiaries from the industry were associated with the most innovative projects. When you looked at all the projects that were flagged for innovation, meaning the project with the most patent or the most publication or the most products or services brought into the market, the industrial doctorates were the ones having the biggest impact and the bigger number of patents per project. If we go to the next slide, interestingly, you would see that there was a correlation between the typical innovation as we conceive it, so patents, products, services, research output, and other kinds of innovation. So there was a nice correlation. The projects that were flagged for innovation scored more on social innovation, be it working conditions, things like that. Innovative training practices, so they were more innovative in the ways they were training the fellows. There was more SMEs and industry involvement, more networking opportunities for doctoral candidates, and there were more synergy involved between these projects and other types of projects. And the key finding as well, one of the key findings, and this was published, if you want to flash the QR code, you can know more about that. And that was confirmed also by several studies and the fellows questionnaires that were mentioned before, is that this project had the highest impact on the professional development of the fellows. So all these practices that were incentivized, sorry, it's a bit of a tongue twister. I mean, all this, design of doctoral networks were conducive to an ecosystem that was fostering innovation. So there's a lot in it for you, for the fellows, through the design of these doctoral networks. If we go to the next slide, yes. So as was said before, doctoral networks evolves from year to year because us in UREA, but also our colleagues from the Commission, they listen to you, they listen to the member states, to the national contact points, and the program evolves year after year. So in 2022, for instance, major simplification was to abolish the maximum secondment duration for industrial doctorates and joint doctorates. It will clarify a bit later what this entails for you. In 2023, the grant size from DN was increased from 360 to 540 per month. And a big incentive for the joint doctorates was that the fellows could have a fellowship duration of 4 years instead of 3, and the project as well could last up to 4 years. And the simplification was also to abolish the requirement to have a letter of commitment for associated partners. And last year, as was mentioned by Claire in her speech, for joint doctorates, it is now possible to have organizations from non-associated third countries as awarding institutions. So basically, in the past, for joint doctorates, each fellow needed to be enrolled in at least a double degree from at least 2 entities from member state or associated countries. Now it's only from 1 institution from member state or associated countries. So that means that the second one could be from a third country. That's the main difference. And yes, that was for an overall introduction. And then we will dive into more details.
Yes, thanks a lot, Julien. I think it's still the first part, this one?
I think it is, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
So, as was mentioned before, doctoral networks, as all the MSCAs basically, is a bottom-up scheme. So that means that you can come up with any project from any field that you want. Those are divided in 8 scientific panels: life science, mathematics, social sciences, economics, engineering. So those are 8 scientific panels. So when you submit a proposal, you have to decide in which scientific panel you will submit it to. And what you need to know as well is that we mentioned 3 implementation modes. We mentioned the standard doctoral networks, the industrial doctorates, and the joint doctorates. And all these 3 implementation modes, they compete together within the same scientific panel. So each proposal from the same panel compete against each other. So implementation modes, here you have them. You have the standard one, doctoral networks, which entails research, obviously, but also training in academia and or industry. You have the industrial doctorates, which, as the name suggests, has a stronger emphasis on the non-academic involvement, with a joint supervision of each fellow between the academic and the non-academic sector. And you also have the joint doctorates, which should lead to joint collaboration, leading to joint multiple or double doctoral degrees, with a joint selection and supervision of the fellows. For this, in the template, you will see that you need to fill in a pre-agreement letter for joint doctorates that says that you basically confirm that you will take all the steps necessary to deliver a joint double multiple degree to the fellows that you will hire. So on the next slide, a few updates since the end 2024. As was mentioned before, the unit costs have increased to factor in the inflation. So the salary of the fellows have increased. We've also introduced risk submission restrictions, and I will talk about that more a bit later. But as a teaser, if you submitted a proposal in the last call, the end 2024, and you had a score of less than 80, you should not resubmit the same proposal in the 2025 call. But more on that later. And also on the eligibility condition of the NJDs, as I said before, there is more flexibility on the multiple degrees offered by each fellows. And as Claire mentioned, it's possible to have a double degree between, say, member state and Senegal, Australia, Japan, whatever third country. So we talked about many things. We talked about academic, non-academic sector, joint, double, multiple degrees. What does that mean? So let's go into some of these important definitions. So academic, non-academic. So it's important to realize that this is, those are our definition, right? The MSCA definition of academic and non-academic. And your entity sector is defined by how you registered it in the participant register. And what you should understand is that the academic sector is either public or private higher education establishment, or public or private non-profit research organization, or international European research organization. This is what defines the academic sector. And the non-academic sector is definition by exclusion. So if you are not part of the academic sector, then you're in the non-academic. One important takeaway message from this is that academic versus non-academic has nothing to do with public or private. You see that the private higher education establishment or private non-profit research organization is considered academic for us, right? So this is important to note, especially if you apply for a ministerial doctorate. How to get involved in the doctoral networks? There is two ways of doing that. Either you're beneficiaries or a direct participant. So beneficiaries, they sign the grant agreement. Each beneficiary has to recruit at least one doctoral candidate, and they directly claim costs. You can also get involved in a doctoral network by being an associated partner. So it's a kind of indirect participation in the project. Associated partners do not sign the grant agreement, and they cannot recruit researchers, and they don't directly claim costs, but they can host doctoral candidates as secondment. They participate in the supervisory board. They can offer training. They can do many different things, and they can indirectly get funding for this, but through a different mechanism. And this is by redistribution of the unit cost, but we can talk about that in more details later. Double, joint, multiple degrees, what does that mean? A joint degree is simply a single diploma issued by at least two higher education establishments and recognized officially. And the double or multiple degrees is two or more separate diplomas. So you have a single diploma by different institution or separate diplomas. But of course, if you have a double or multiple, they have to be recognized officially as well. It's important to note that if you apply for a joint doctorate, you have to submit a letter of pre-agreement, but this is in the proposal template that you can find in the funding and tender portal. And I think that's it for the first part. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Julien, for this nice details already on the doctoral network. So I think now we all have a better idea of what we expect within the doctoral network. And let's test a bit our knowledge with 3 frequently asked questions. Just to mention as well that all these frequently asked questions are also published and available on the Funding and Tenders portal on the DN 2025 call page. So let's see the first question. So the first question does not appear yet, but yes, it's coming. So what is the added value of applying to MSCA Industrial Doctorate? I think Julien, it's for you, or no? Sohail, sorry. Yes, the order has changed, so sorry for that. So Sohail will tell us more about the added value of industrial doctorates.
The added value of industrial doctorates. Well, okay, for the doctoral candidate, him or herself, of course, just a reminder, in the industrial doctorates, the candidate must spend minimum 50% of the fellowship duration at the non-academic premises, and the doctoral candidate is co-supervised by an academic and a non-academic supervisor. So, as such, the doctoral candidate is actually tackling the same scientific question from completely different angles. So that's already an important benefit. They get to acquire innovation-friendly skills. They get access to data, including market data. And of course, they get a first-hand experience of how is it to work in the non-academic world, which help them in their decision later of what kind of career they want to have. And of course, it improves their employability. The non-academic partner, they get access to talent, they get access to cutting-edge knowledge, scientific knowledge, and the academic institution, from the feedback we're getting, they get involved in industrial doctors to have long-term sustainable collaboration with non-academia, and also to get closer to get insights on the valorization of the research output, be it in the market or in any other applied fashion.
Thank you very much for this very comprehensive answer, Sohail. So the next question is, how is the total budget for the DN 2025 call distributed between the three types of doctoral networks? And I think Michaela will reply.
That's me, actually. So as Julien explained previously, there is a single budget for the three implementation modes for doctoral networks, industrial doctorates, and joint doctorates. And as he showed you in one of the slides, this is a bottom-up scheme, but nevertheless, there are 8 scientific panels. And when you will submit your proposal, you will submit it to one of those 8 scientific panels. And the same applies, of course, for industrial doctorates and for joint doctorates, which will also need to submit to one of those scientific panels where they will be ranked. And the budget will actually be distributed between those scientific panels in proportion to the number of eligible proposals that will be submitted. And all proposals which have scored 70 or more will then be considered for funding within, of course, the limits of the available budget.
Thank you very much, Michaela. So let's now move on to the last frequently asked question on this first part, so which is about resubmission. So under Horizon Europe DN 2025 call, our resubmission of MSCA Doctoral Networks 2023 call allowed? Julien?
Yes. So the very short answer is yes, but let me develop a little bit. So we have put in place resubmission restrictions a few years back, but these resubmission restrictions are from 1 year to the next. So that means that if in 2024 you submitted a proposal and this proposal was scored less than 80, you are not allowed to resubmit the same proposal in 2025. This would make your proposal ineligible. Now, how that works in practice, and this is defined in the work program, you have to self-declare whether your proposal is a resubmission or not, and state the proposal number of the previous submission. But whether you declared it or not, what we will do is analyze and check all proposals for which the consortium composition was at least 70% similar, right? And then we will check whether these proposals tackle the same subject or not, and whether they are resubmission or not. in this area, we can be helped also by the experts. But just to make it clear, resubmission restrictions are from 1 year to the other. So if you submitted a proposal in 2023, whatever your score was, you are fully eligible to resubmit in 2025. That's not a problem.
Thank you very much, Julien, for this clarification. So now let's move to the second part of the presentation on the end 2025. And Julien, you will tell us more about all the eligibility conditions that you need to fulfill in order to make your proposal eligible and to address all main requirements. Julien?
Thank you, Audrey. So yes, eligibility conditions. So as was mentioned by Claire, there is a reason why the project is designed in a certain way, and there are eligibility conditions that we will mention. So first off, eligible countries. So EU countries, so member states, obviously, and their overseas countries and territories leading to member states are eligible to participate in doctoral networks. For non-EU countries, there are different types of countries. So you have the associated countries, countries associated to Horizon Europe. So they're entitled to participate in the doctoral networks, same way as the member state countries. You also have the low and middle income countries. And I invite you to take a look at the Horizon Europe program guide to see a list of those countries. Those countries can also participate and get funded in doctoral networks as full beneficiaries. And other countries when announced in the call, but that's not specifically the case for doctoral networks. So what's important to notice is that there is a list of low and middle income countries from the Horizon Europe program guide. And if your country does not belong to this list, the country of your institution, then you can participate, but you cannot get funded. So typically you would participate as an associated partner to these doctoral networks. So just in case we have questions later on this aspect, so the UK is now fully associated, so they can participate as full beneficiaries, and Switzerland, it's in the making. So pending the fact that they signed the association agreement before the grant agreement is signed, they are fully eligible to participate as beneficiaries. Now, it's also possible for high-income third countries to try to participate as beneficiaries, but then it will be up to the experts to assess whether exceptionally these institutions can get funded if their participation is deemed essential for the project. This could be because they have access to a certain geographical environment or to specific data sets that nobody else has access to, things like that. Specific case, international organizations are not eligible for funding, except exceptionally, like if it was a high-income third countries, and except the European interest international organization. Now, if we move to the next slide, who can participate? Any legal entity worldwide. So as I said before, anyone can participate, but not all applicants are eligible to get funded, right? And it's important to note that those are consortia projects, so consortia of university, research institutions, businesses, NGOs, other socioeconomic actors, but it should be a consortium of at least 3 entities from 3 different EU member states or associated countries, and from these 3, at least 1 must be from an EU member state. So I reiterate that this should be a consortium, because every year we have 3 or 4 proposals from an individual person for their PhD funding, and those are ineligible proposals. And I'm just saying that because it's a waste of time for the person drafting their proposal. So this is not eligible. There are specific cases of entities that cannot participate. So there is a restriction for high-risk suppliers of mobile network communication equipment. They are not eligible to participate in any kind of capacity. And I invite you to have a look at the EU toolbox on 5G cybersecurity. And also any legal entity established in Russia, Belarus, or in non-government controlled territories of Ukraine are not allowed to participate in any kind of capacity in the doctoral networks. You can have a look at the general annexes of the Work Program 2025 for more information. What about the size of the project? So projects for all types of actions, they can request funding for up to 540 person month. This is for all types of actions. In terms of duration, and now when we talk about the proposal, we talk about the whole network. So the whole network has a maximum duration of 48 months for doctoral networks and industrial doctorates. And for these two types of actions, the fellowship offered to the doctoral candidates is from 3 to 36 months. So you see that the networks has up to 1 year to recruit the fellows, and the fellows will have a fellowship of up to 36 months. For JDs, and this was the incentive that was put in place, the fellows can have up to 48 months, so 4 years of funding. Consequently, the overall network, so the DNJDs can last up to 60 months. These fellows, they can, once they are recruited by an institution, they can and should go on secondments worldwide in any sector. But for standard doctoral networks, there is a cap. They cannot go on secondment for more than 1/3 of their duration. So for 36 months fellowship, that means no more than 12 months. But for IDs and JDs, the incentive is that there is no secondment limitation. They could go on secondment for 60% of their time if it made sense for their project. For associated partners, there is no minimum or maximum. It has to be, to make sense for the networks that you're running, but there is no minimum or maximum number of associated partners. Of course, for beneficiaries, each beneficiary has to recruit at least one fellow. So the number of beneficiaries will be limited by the cap of 540 person. If we go to the next slide, yes. As I said before, I went ahead of myself. All beneficiaries must recruit at least one doctoral candidate. They must recruit them, host them, and supervise them in their own premises. For some specific cases, it's not possible. They can use associated partners linked to them to do so. In order to ensure some geographical spread of the networks, there should not be more than 40% of the budget allocated to the same country or to a single international organization. And the resubmission restrictions, as was mentioned before, if you submitted a proposal in 2024 and you scored below 80%, you cannot resubmit in 2025. There are some specific eligibility conditions for industrial and joint doctorates. For industrial doctorates, as was mentioned by Sohail, each fellow, each doctoral candidate must spend at least 50% of their fellowship time in the non-academic sector. So if it was 36 months, that means 1.5 years in the non-academic sector. That's a minimum, doesn't mean it has to be exactly 50%. Non-academic sectors, they could be in the project as a beneficiary or as associated partner, because as we said, it's possible there's no limitation on the secondment time in industrial doctorates. So it's possible that a fellow is recruited by an academic beneficiary and sent on secondment in the non-academic associated partner, for instance, for 50% of their time. This is possible. One thing that's important is that the fellows have to be jointly supervised by supervisors from the academic and from the non-academic organizations. If we go to the next slide, we have here a word cloud of what are the benefits of industrial doctorates. So Sohail talked about that before. So without entering into details, I mean, there's these types of actions are very conducive to innovation, to competitiveness. They score higher in the number of patents that they deliver. They lead to sustainable collaboration between the non-academic and the academic sector. So these are the main benefits from the industrial doctorates. Now, if we go to joint doctorates, in the specific eligibility conditions, from the consortium side, there should be at least 3 participants awarding a PhD, and one of these 3 participants should be from an EU member state or an associated country. Each fellow has to be enrolled in a joint, double, or multiple PhD, and this joint, double, or multiple PhD have to be delivered by obviously different entities, but from at least one member state or associated country. So if it's a joint, or if it's a double degree, it could be from one member state and a third country. Could be from 2 member states as well. This is possible, but it cannot be from 2 third countries. So you could not have in your project a fellow enrolled in, and now I'm inventing, in, I don't know, Australia and Japan. This is not possible. There should be in this project joint admission, selection, training, supervision, and governance. So there should be more coherence in the whole process from admission to supervision and governance of each fellow. There are letter of pre-agreements to deliver these multiple degrees, and that's in the proposal template. And the fellowship can last up to 4 months, and the whole network is up to 5 months. Just to clarify, because we usually have this kind of question, we don't have any preference between the joint, a double, or multiple degrees, and evaluators are, we tell that to the evaluators as well, that there's no, multiple degree is not better than the double degree, right? So this has no importance. What benefits from joint doctorates? Well, as was mentioned before, typically joint doctorates have more structuring effects, leveling the playing field between different institutions through the convergence of their, doctoral degrees definition, sustainable governance. There is more long-term collaboration. This is, in a nutshell, what are the benefits from the joint doctorates. Now, these are the eligibility conditions for when you submit your proposal, as duration, consortium, etc. Then, if your proposal is successful and you get funded, then you will need to recruit researchers, so doctoral candidates, and these researchers have to be eligible as well. So researchers must be doctoral candidates, so they should not already have a doctoral degree at the date of recruitment. And to anticipate some questions, no, it's not possible to recruit a postdoc. It's only doctoral candidates, only people with no doctoral degrees yet. To anticipate another question, MDs are not considered PhDs for us, so you can recruit a medical doctor, as long as they don't have a... They have to be recruited following an open, merit-based, and transparent recruitment. This is very important. This can be audited. You have to be able to prove, in case of an audit, that the person you recruited was recruited following an open, merit-based, and transparent recruitment without any conflicts of interest, and through predefined metrics that you agreed before when you launch your recruitment process. All these researchers must be enrolled in a doctoral program in at least one EU member state or associated country. So that's very important, because when we said any country, so low to middle income countries, they can participate as beneficiaries, pay attention to that, because the fellows that they will recruit, because they have to recruit a fellow, the fellow must be enrolled in a doctoral program in at least one EU member state or associated country. So it is possible, though, even in the standard doctoral network, that the fellows are going to recruit, say Japan. If they are enrolled only in a doctoral program in Japan, that won't work. It's not eligible. But if it's a double degree between Japan and an EU member state or associated country, that's possible. So in at least one EU member state or associated country. Eligible researchers could be of any nationality. There are possible exceptions, but I invite you to have a look at the general annexes, with the link is below. And they have to be mobile. So the researchers you're going to recruit, they must not have resided or carried out the main activity in the country of your institution for more than 12 months in the previous 3 years before their recruitment date, right? So they have to undergo mobility. This is a summary of the eligibility conditions. I think I will not repeat the conditions there, but if you want to go to one place to have a summary, you could go to this slide. Yes.
Thank you very much, Julien, for this very important part on the eligibility conditions, and I hope it will help you prepare your application. So let's now have quickly 3 short frequently asked questions. So the first one is, how can the minimum 50% time spent in the non-academic sector be achieved in an ID for a doctoral candidate? And it's Michaela, yes.
Okay, so as Julien already presented it to you, there are incentives for industrial doctorates. The first incentives is the fact that there is no limitation to the secondment time. And the second flexibility which exists in industrial doctorates is the fact that non-academic beneficiaries can participate either as beneficiary or as associated partners. So this means, for example, that you could have an entity from the academic sector recruiting a doctoral candidate for 100% of the time. But in order to comply with the minimum 50% rule, they could send this doctoral candidate to the non-academic sector, participating either as a beneficiary or as an associated partner for 50% of the time, thus complying with the rule. Or another example could be that a non-academic beneficiary recruits a doctoral candidate for 100% of his fellowship duration. Those are, of course, only 2 examples. There are many more configuration possibles, and it's up to you to see what is best suited for your consortium and for your project.
Thank you very much, Michaela. So let's now see the second question. In a joint doctorate, is it possible for one of the degree awarding institutions to be based in a non-EU country that is not associated with Horizon Europe? Julien?
Yes, so start with the short answer, yes, and then let me develop. Indeed, since last year, in a joint doctorate, so each fellow must be enrolled in a joint double multiple degree from institutions from at least one EU member state or associated country. So it's at least one member state or associated country, meaning that the second one could be any country in the world, so including a non-EU country that is not associated with Horizon Europe. So that's possible to have a fellow enrolled in, I don't know, again, I'm making this up, in Senegal and Spain, for instance. That's possible.
Thanks a lot, Julien. And let's see now the last frequently asked question on this second part. So can the Joint Research Center be part of a doctoral network consortium? Sohail?
Yes. Yeah, so again, the short answer is yes. But the GRC can be part of a consortium, but not at the proposal writing stage. So basically, once a project or a proposal becomes passes the evaluation and gets into the main list, then they can actually add the Joint Research Center after that, either as an associated partner or as a beneficiary with zero budget. And here the value would be for the GRC to receive secondments from the consortium, to be involved in the training, but also in the supervisory board. And indeed, there are several successful examples where this is a positive collaboration. So again, the short answer is yes.
Thank you very much, Sohail. Now, before continuing with the last part of the full presentation on DN 2025 call, let's have a short coffee break and resume the session in 10 minutes maximum. So you can still continue submitting all your questions on Slido using the QR code appearing on the screen. Please double check all the already submitted questions to avoid too many duplications, and see you in a few minutes. Thank you.
What is MSCA? The Marie Skłodowska-Curie Actions are the European Union's reference funding programme for doctoral education and postdoctoral training. They support researchers from all over the world, in all scientific domains and at all stages of their careers. They equip researchers with new knowledge and skills and encourage their mobility between countries, disciplines and sectors in and outside academia. They offer attractive working and employment conditions. The MSCA also contribute to developing excellent doctoral and postdoctoral programs and boost research collaboration worldwide. They increase the global visibility and attractiveness of organizations. By supporting innovative research, the program contributes to finding innovative solutions to the challenges faced by our societies. The 5 MSCA actions. Whether you are an individual researcher, an organization, or a staff member, the MSCA have something for you. Through its doctoral networks, the MSCA enable academic and non-academic organizations to collaborate and create excellent doctoral programs with a strong international dimension. Doctoral networks include industrial doctorates, which allow PhD candidates to train beyond academia, and joint doctorates, which deliver joint training programs and degrees from several organizations. Doctoral networks provide creative and entrepreneurial doctoral candidates with research-related and transferable skills and a focus on open science and innovation. Through the postdoctoral fellowships, researchers can develop their own research proposal with the host organization of their choice. This allows them to pursue their research and follow advanced training with leading organizations in their field, acquiring new and transferable skills in academia or in the non-academic sector. Researchers can choose between European fellowships or global fellowships, enabling them to gain international experience either in Europe or in any country of the world. Under Co-Fund, an organization can get co-funding for its own doctoral or postdoctoral programs at regional, national, or international level if it follows the excellence principles and working conditions of the MSCA. Co-Fund promotes excellent training and career development for researchers, thus spreading MSCA best practices to new or existing schemes. Through its staff exchanges, the MSCA enable organizations to exchange research and innovation staff worldwide in the framework of joint projects. This includes researchers, as well as technical, managerial, or administrative staff. Staff exchanges allow knowledge transfers among disciplines and between academia and the non-academic sector. Finally, through the MSCA and Citizens Initiative, organizations can bring research closer to the public by organizing activities and events during the European Researchers' Night. By doing so, they highlight the role of research for society and the economy, as well as the impact of researchers' work on citizens' daily lives, raising young people's interest for research and scientific careers. Marie Skłodowska-Curie Actions. What is MSCA? The Marie Skłodowska-Curie Actions are the European Union's reference funding programme for doctoral education and postdoctoral training. They support researchers from all over the world, in all scientific domains and at all stages of their careers. They equip researchers with new knowledge and skills and encourage their mobility between countries, disciplines and sectors in and outside academia. They offer attractive working and employment conditions. The MSCA also contribute to developing excellent doctoral and postdoctoral programs and boost research collaboration worldwide. They increase the global visibility and attractiveness of organizations. By supporting innovative research, the program contributes to finding innovative solutions to the challenges faced by our societies. The 5 MSCA actions. Whether you are an individual researcher, an organization, or a staff member, the MSCA have something for you. Through its doctoral networks, the MSCA enable academic and non-academic organizations to collaborate and create excellent doctoral programs with a strong international dimension. Doctoral networks include industrial doctorates, which allow PhD candidates to train beyond academia, and joint doctorates, which deliver joint training programs and degrees from several organizations. Doctoral networks provide creative and entrepreneurial doctoral candidates with research-related and transferable skills and a focus on open science and innovation. Through the postdoctoral fellowships, researchers can develop their own research proposal with the host organization of their choice. This allows them to pursue their research and follow advanced training with leading organizations in their field, acquiring new and transferable skills in academia or in the non-academic sector. Researchers can choose between European fellowships or global fellowships, enabling them to gain international experience either in Europe or in any country of the world. Under Co-Fund, an organization can get co-funding for its own doctoral or postdoctoral programs at regional, national or international level if it follows the excellence principles and working conditions of the MSCA. Co-Fund promotes excellent training and career development for researchers, thus spreading MSCA best practices to new or existing schemes. Through its staff exchanges, the MSCA enable organizations to exchange research and innovation staff worldwide in the framework.
Welcome back to this Horizon Europe MSCA Doctoral Networks 2025 Call Information event. And let's move now to the last part of the full presentation of the DN 2025 call. And Julien will now tell us all about the funding mechanism, the evaluation process, and the award criteria. Julien?
All right, so hi again. Part 3 of this presentation, so let's delve into the funding mechanisms. So the funding mechanism is fairly straightforward. It's fully based on unit costs. What do we mean by unit? 1 unit is 1 person month, so 1 person working for 1 month. The total cost of the project is the cost per unit times the number of units. It's 100% reimbursement rate for eligible beneficiaries. And there are different categories. A cost that goes for the researcher. So when we say researcher, we mean the doctoral candidate, and one that goes for the institution. And in the next slide, you will see more details. So you see on the left side, you have of the cost category, you have the contribution for the recruited researcher, so the doctoral candidates. So you have the living allowance, that's 4,010 euros. Please bear in mind that first there's a country correction coefficient that applies to this living allowance. Living allowance is a salary, basically. And then there is a country correction coefficient because life is more expensive in Norway than in Portugal, for instance. And this is the gross amount for the researchers. There is a mobility allowance of 710 euros that each fellow, if they are eligible, they had to undergo mobility. So all of that has also to go to the fellow. There's a family allowance if applicable, and there's long-term leave allowance and special needs allowance if applicable, but this is more if the need arises during the implementation of your project, then more can be said about that. And then there's another part, which is the institutional unit contribution, and this is the cost of running the project, basically. So there's the research, training, and networking contribution of 1,600 euros, and the management and indirect contribution of 1,200 euros. So that means that for each fellow working for 1 month, you have 2,800 euros to run the project. Now, before I told you that associated partners were not directly funded by us, but they could be funded indirectly. So what that means is that a beneficiary recruiting a fellow for 36 months, you will get 36 times, the unit, 1 unit, but an associated partner that would, for instance, organize a training or host a doctoral candidate for secondments. What's important to know is that institutional unit contributions, this can be redistributed amongst the consortium, and this is defined in the consortium agreement, the ways that the consortium sees fit. So, for instance, if an entity has more management contribution, some of this money can be channeled to them. If an associated partner organizes a training or hosts a researcher for secondment, they can be, this institutional contribution can be channeled to them. So it's not that there's 2,800 for each month of each fellow. This is to be understood as, a package for the whole project that you can redistribute according to the needs of the project. Now, this was for the funding mechanism. How about the evaluation process? How are your proposals evaluated and on which criteria? So there's different phases in the evaluation. The call closes on the 25th of November this year. Of course, first we receive the proposals and we check that they are eligible. And then the proposals are allocated to experts. This is a peer review process. We don't evaluate the proposals. We ask independent external experts to assess the proposal. But there is the first phase of individual evaluation. What that means is that a proposal is assigned to 3 different experts, 3 individual experts. Each expert doesn't know who the 2 others are, and they assess their proposals allocated to them individually, right? Once this is done, so you have for each proposal 3 individual evaluations, then comes the consensus group phase. So peer review and consensus, those are the 2 cornerstones of the evaluation. These 3 experts, they then discuss together and they have to agree on a common position on the comments and on the score of the proposal. So the evaluation of your proposal comes from the discussion of 3 independent experts that agree together on comments and score for a proposal. So these 3 evaluators, they could come from different angles. They could, this caters for the interdisciplinary proposals as well. So this is why we have different experts and the consensus. Then comes the panel review at the very end of the process, where there's an in-depth quality check to ensure consistency of evaluation between proposals, because we receive many proposals. So we have to ensure that all proposals are treated the same. And this is also with the experts. And then we finalize the evaluation and we have the ranking list. And then we take the ranked proposal, and when there is no funding anymore, we just draw the line there. So evaluation is carried out by independent external experts under the responsibility of REA. Of course, we are there to ensure that the evaluators evaluate the proposals according to preset criteria, the same way you're going to recruit your doctoral candidates, and that they abide to the rule of the evaluation. They evaluate according to different award criteria. So there are 3 criteria: excellence, impact, and implementation, which have different weighing. So excellence weighs 50%, impact 30%, and implementation 20%. So it means that the score in excellence is more important than the score in implementation. Having said that, it's a very competitive process, so you have to be excellent in all criteria to make the cut. These criteria are divided in different sub-criteria. So to make it clear for experts and for you what we mean by excellence, you have for excellence, for instance, 4 sub-criteria. So the quality of the innovation objectives, the methodologies, the training program, and the quality of supervision, and so on for impact and implementation. Then if we go to the next slide, yes, just to give you a bit of an idea of the scope, this is a large-scale operation. We receive many proposals, so it's one of the largest calls within Horizon Europe. In terms of budget, this is more than €500 million for one call. And last year, for instance, we received more than 1,400 proposals. Each proposal evaluated by 3 different experts, so we had 1,240 experts last year involved in the evaluation. So that's a massive exercise and monitored by 50 project officers. Project officers, that's us, that's rare. And that resulted in around 150 proposals selected for funding. And that represents a bit more than 2,000 doctoral candidates. And that gives you an idea as well of the success rate. 1,400 proposals submitted, 150 selected, so a bit more than 10%. How do you apply? The first thing you need to do is go to the funding and tender portal. So it's a one-stop shop where you can find all the different calls from Horizon Europe. So if you go to the funding and tender portal, you can Google it, or you can click on the link here, or you have the search engine, you type doctoral networks, and you will find Doctoral Networks 2025. Inside of this call page, you have all the documents that you need. So there's a guide of applicant, there's the proposal template. So pay attention to the proposal template. Every year we try to adapt based on the feedback we had from the previous years. This year's template is different than the previous year's template. Not drastically different, but it's different. So you have to really use the latest template. That's in the funding and tender portal. You have the program. You also have a manual and IT, how to, where to click, how to do the things you need to do to submit your proposal. There's also a Q&A in this call page. Whenever we have a new question that was not touched by a Q&A, we add it into the page. Your proposal is divided in 2 or 3 sections, depends how you see it. You have part A, that's structured data. So that's mainly administrative data related to consortium, the abstract of the proposal, things like that. And this is structured data that you fill in directly in the system. And then you have part B. Part B is the narrative part. So you have a template that you have to fill in, and you make a PDF out of it, and then you upload that in the portal. And you have 2 part Bs. You have part B1. Part B1 is really the core of the proposal. And inside the proposal template, you have instructions, what it means exactly, what you have to fill in all the different subparts of the proposal. And it's important to know that you have a page limit. Everything is explained in the template, but there's a page limit of 30 pages. Whatever goes above the 30 pages will just be automatically blanked out. So we don't even have to tell the experts to not look at it. The system will just blank it out, so it will not be visible. And there's a part B2. Part B2 contains also some elements that you need to fill in, and there is no limitation. There is no page limitation in part B2. So when you prepare your proposal, it's really important that you read the work program, and most importantly, the guide for applicant, that you use the proposal template. So a lot of the instructions are in the proposal template. You can find that. That's called the application form as well. Probably in the portal, that's called the application form. You can download it, read it carefully. read the evaluation form so you know on which basis your proposal will be evaluated. And as I said before, don't underestimate any part of the proposal because it's a very competitive call and you have to be excellent in all the aspects. Of course, excellence is more important than implementation, but you need to be good in all the sections. And write each section clearly and in coherence with all sections of the proposal. We still see sometimes incoherence between different sections. Be careful with that. As a word of advice, it's always good to perform an internal peer review with your consortium partners. You know, after a while, when you've seen something so many times, it's always nice to have a fresh view on your proposal. You will discover things. Consult your national contact points. As Audrey mentioned as well, they also organize different sessions, hands-on sessions as well on proposal preparation. Duly complete part A. Start preparing early. Do not underestimate the time needed to prepare a proposal. And very important, don't leave submission for the last minute. Every year, we have people that fail to submit because they did it too late. So the deadline, 25th of November at 5 p.m., not at 5 p.m. and 1 minute. So don't leave it for the last minute. That's an advice. Last but not least, probably the best thing you could do is think if you're an evaluator and you would evaluate your proposal, what would you think about your proposal? So think like an evaluator, look at the criteria, look at the instructions, and write for the evaluator. There's a lot of resources available on the websites. I'm not going to list all of them, but here you have all the links possible. Most important is the Funding and Tender Opportunities portal, because there you have links to most of the documents that are needed. So you have the call documents, you have the work program. Maybe I would highlight particularly maybe the MSCA matchmaking platform that helps you build your consortium, the guidelines on supervision, which are really important, the European Charter for Researcher that touches upon the recruitment and other aspects. Those are important things to consider. You can click on the link and go through these documents. If you have any questions, your first line of advice would be your national contact points. You can also ask questions in the Research and Query Service. And yes, that's about it. The inspirational quote for the end. I mean, it's all about human capital development, Marie Skłodowska-Curie actions, really. And Marie Skłodowska-Curie said, you cannot hope to build a better world without improving the individuals. And that's precisely what we're trying to do in MSCA, but well, through you, basically. So you do that, and we're grateful for it.
Thank you very much, Julien, for this last part of the presentation. So now let's go quickly through three frequently asked questions. And the first one is, will the evaluation of the Horizon Europe MSCA Industrial Doctorates ID and Joint Doctorates, GD, differ from that of Standard Doctoral Networks type of action? I think it's Julien.
Yes. No, the evaluation will not differ. Those are the same set of criteria, the same set of sub-criteria for all three actions. As was said also before, the proposals within the same scientific panel, they compete against each other, whether they are joint doctorates, industrial doctorates, or standard doctoral networks. So there is no difference of treatment between the three different actions.
Thanks a lot, Julien. Let's now move to the second question. Joint doctorates, is it allowed to foresee and implement different fellowship duration within the same DN-JD proposal? Sohail?
Yeah, if I understood the question correctly, so this like, is it possible within the same consortium to have one doctoral candidate with a fellowship that is 2.5 years and another is 3, for instance? Yes, but this also applies to actually any kind of doctoral networks, not just for joint doctorates.
Yes, indeed. So with the envelope of 540 person months, you can decide to give 36 person months fellowship in a JD and 48 person months. It's a bit up to the consortium to decide, indeed. And the last question, if a proposal is relevant to several scientific areas, can this be submitted to any of the corresponding panels? Can an organization submit the same proposal under several scientific panels? Michaela?
Thank you, Audrey. So indeed, if a proposal is relevant to several scientific areas, you can submit to the one which you believe corresponds the best to your proposal, but you're not allowed to submit the same proposal under several scientific panels. And I just wanted to say that in case your proposal has an interdisciplinary nature, don't worry. I mean, we will ensure that it's evaluated by experts who have the required expertise, whatever the panel you have finally chosen.
Thanks a lot, Michaela. So we are now at the end of this first part of the event, and I'm sorry for the slight delay compared to the initial schedule, but we will try to catch up during the Q&A session. So I hope you found all the useful information you need to prepare your proposal and also to get to know more about industrial doctorates and joint doctorates modalities and all the benefits you could get in applying to these modalities. So just let me highlight few important messages that we learned today and this morning, in particular on doctoral networks. So just in terms of participation, so UK is a fully associated country to Horizon Europe since last year already. Switzerland is also now eligible to apply as beneficiary pending the final signature of the association to Horizon Europe. Don't forget also all the simplification measures that were put in place for industrial doctorates, in particular for the non-academic participants who can participate either as associated partner or as beneficiary. You have the full flexibility. Further simplifications were also put in place for joint doctorates, as you heard already, regarding the double joint PhD degree, and in addition to the incentives put in place as of 2023 call regarding the fellowship and the project duration. And also finally, as mentioned also by Julien, please follow the current template. So for DN 2025, since every year there are few changes, few improvements, simplification in the template, and it would be a pity to be penalized because you used a different one. So with that, I still invite you to submit all your questions via Slido using the QR code appearing on the screen, and just check the already submitted questions so that we don't answer too many similar questions. We will try anyway to publish the most recurrent and most frequent questions after the event, together with the full presentation and slides that you saw this morning. And please also make sure to not to submit too specific questions. So in those cases, we may reply only in writing to make sure that we address all elements of your questions. So with this, I think we can have a very, very short 2-minute break and resume the session in 2 minutes, actually, to start the Q&A session. Thank you. Welcome back to this Horizon Europe MSCA Doctoral Networks 2025 Call Information event. And let's start immediately with a question and answer session now. So we can still submit, of course, all your questions using the QR code appearing on the screen via Slido. Let me again introduce our panelists who will answer all your questions together with me today. So Sohail Luka, Policy Officer in the MSCA Policy Unit in the European Commission's Directorate General for Education, Youth, Sport and Culture. Julien Jordani, Co-Coordinator in the MSCA Doctoral Networks Unit in the European Research Executive Agency. And Michaela Bitsakis, Head of Sector in the MSCA Doctoral Networks Unit in the RIA. So without any further ado, let's now move to the first question via Slido. So the first question is about a big novelty in the template, proposal template. So the description of individual doctoral candidate research projects has been moved from part 3.1 to part 1.1, so from the implementation criterion to the excellence criterion, even before describing proposal methodology. What is the expected content as science is described after? And how this is reflected in the final scoring. Julien, you would like to answer this one?
Yes, sure. So the reason why we moved the description of the individual doctoral candidates research projects from 3.1 to 1.1 was that in 1.1 you had to explain how the different individual research project fed into the overall network project, and this meant that you had to, you and the evaluators had to go back and forth between what you wrote in section 1.1 and the description of the individual research projects in part 3.1 to answer that question and for you to describe your proposal. So we decided to move it to 1.1 to have some coherence and to avoid that you make repetitions between the two different sections. So indeed, as you say, it's even before describing the methodology. So what is the expected content as science is described after? So I mean the idea is that in 3.1, when you were describing the research projects, you did not enter into many methodological details. So you would do the same in 1.1. So you would describe the individual research projects, would explain how it fits into the overall research program, but the details of the methodology would still be explained in 1.2. So you would put the general picture in 1.1, describing the individual research project without entering into too many details of the methodology that you would describe in 1.2. How is this reflected in the final scoring? It doesn't change anything in the final scoring because before the individual research project and how they fit into the overall research program, this was assessed in 1.1 and not in 3.1. So it's just that the experts had to go back and forth between the different sections, which it made more sense to group everything in one place.
Thank you, Julien. So the next question is, I'm preparing a proposal as coordinator, and we were advised to set apart a common pot of money from the overheads of all beneficiaries to be used for project management, for example, to hire a dedicated project manager. Is this allowed? And is there any suggested amount? Should we write it in the grant agreement or in the consortium agreement? Who would like to reply to this one? Michaela? Yes?
Okay, so this is of course totally allowed. We even recommend you to hire a dedicated project manager. This is a very good practice to actually have one. And the way and the share that each beneficiary agrees to put in this common pot is up to you to decide. We do not interfere in those discussions. You do not have to declare this amount. But what you would really, not even in the grant agreement, but what we would really recommend you to do is to define exactly how the money will be distributed in your consortium agreement to avoid any problems in the future.
Thank you, Michaela. So the next question is about PhD programs at our universities last 4 years. Do you have examples of how applicants have covered the cost for the PhD student for the 4th year that is not covered under the DN funds? Sohail, yes?
I can take this. So basically, the examples I know of are number one, the actual university sometimes cover the rest. National programs like from the government of the country, like the actual member state national programs, and there are also foundations that apply, for fellowships, for like smaller or shorter fellowships. But I think these examples are maybe representative because there are lots of examples of this, because having a PhD program lasting for 4 years is common.
Yes, indeed. Thank you, Sohail. And we always encourage very much all the supervisors to also support and help the doctoral candidates look for additional funding early enough during the project implementation to make sure that they can finalize their PhD. So the next question is about the needs. So what is needed in the new DC tables to describe the secondments? So how detailed the description is needed? And if we can give a concrete example of a completed new DC table. So I think for the template we have our expert, Julien.
Yes. So the DC tables, if you look in the proposal template, the DC tables are pretty, they're not very big. So the secondments, they have to be described under the individual research project description in 1.1. This is where the secondments have to be described and how it makes sense. And the DC tables, I don't have the template in front of me right now, but the DC tables is really, it kind of replaces the recruitment table from before, is that you need to put the fellow, where they would be recruited, where they would be enrolled for the PhD, the total duration of their secondments, start date of their fellowship, and for IDs, the total duration in the non-academic sector. So these really are, factual, figures. The description of the secondment, why it makes sense to do it at this moment and not later, or what they will do during their secondments. This is part of the individual research project description that is now under 1.1.
Thank you, Julien. So the next question is about how detailed must be the part 3.2.3, so the role of associated partners within the program. So do we need to have a small paragraph per associated partner, or should we be one general text for all partners? Who would like to clarify? Julien, you want to give it a try?
Sure, I can take that as well. So the role of associated partners in the program, in 3.2.3, you have to explain what the associated partners will do specifically in the doctoral network. So why they are there, what do they do concretely in the project. Now, whether you have a small paragraph per associated partner or do you have a general text, that's entirely up to you as long as the information is there. So, you could regroup it by associated partner, or you could regroup it by themes like, training or secondments hosting or things like that. But it should just be clear from this part what the associated partners do within the doctoral networks. Organize such and such training, or host such and such fellows for secondments, things like that.
Yes, indeed, Julien. I would also add that for this one, it's also important to highlight the commitment of those associated partners within the consortium. And by describing appropriately their role within the program, you also justify and confirm their commitment. So the next question is about gender balance. So how is it counted? The total number of participants from the leadership positions. So who would like to answer this one?
I can
Yes.
just mention that the leadership position. This is in some parts of Horizon Europe, but not in MSCA. That let's say that clause is not in our case. I think here the reference is to the ex-echo.
Yes.
Yes. So no. I mean, I confirm that the kind of the leadership position specificity is not applying to our case.
Yes, but indeed, in those cases, so for the specific case of ex-equo, we will be counting the supervisors. And that's why there is also a table in the proposal template listing all the supervisors and the gender, because in case of ex-equo proposals, then the expert would go and count the number of supervisors from one gender and the other. Julien, do you have anything to complement?
Oh, that's exactly that. I mean, it's that's why it's important to know who is the supervisor. So we will count the number of supervisors and co-supervisor whenever there's supervisor written in their title. Of course, not double counting them, and we will just make the ratio of female to male.
Indeed. The next question is the typical ESR project is 36 months, so doctoral candidate project. However, there might be, I'm sorry because it's a bit difficult to read the questions with on the screen right now. So there might be universities with PhD projects lasting for 48 months, plus up to 20% duties that extend beyond those months. So how is this perceived in the application? And what would be the best way to present such ESRs in the application? Who would like to try to, Michaela?
So, I mean, we know that in many countries and in many universities, the PhD duration is 48 months. And indeed, our fellowships for doctoral networks is only limited to 36 months. Of course, if you go for a joint doctorate, it's actually 48 months. So we encourage you to do it. But in terms of perception in the application, I mean, they're not going to look, the evaluators, the expert evaluators, at the duration of the PhD. The enrollment to a PhD is mandatory. So in any case, they will need to go. They will look at the quality of the research and training program, which will you be offering to the doctoral candidate. And so, of course, you can include the fact that one university offers a 48 PhD program, but it will not affect the way the evaluation will be evaluated.
Thank you, Michaela. So the next question is, are UK beneficiaries permitted to coordinate a consortium under the current rules? Sohail, yes?
Yes. Okay, here I think a short answer is enough.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes, indeed. Under a standard MSCA DN, can a doctoral candidate have more than one co-supervisor? For example, one supervisor plus two co-supervisors. Is there a recommended number? Julien?
So it is possible to have, I mean, it is possible to have more than one co-supervisor. Of course, it has to make sense, of course, with the fellow. It's not about multiplying the supervisors just for the sake of multiplying them, but it is possible. So there is no recommended number. Please note that the quality of supervision is one evaluation criterion. It's 1.4 if my memory serves well. So yeah, you have to explain how these things will be organized, but it is possible.
Thank you, Julien. The next question is about doctoral network. So what is the minimum time for doctoral candidate to spend in secondment? So I can take this one maybe. So if we are talking about standard doctoral network, we have a limit of 1/3 of the fellowship duration to be spent in secondment. So this is a maximum, but there is no minimum time. Of course, we know that secondments will also help achieve all the objectives of the doctoral network in terms of international and intersectoral dimensions. So we expect the fellows to go on secondment. So it should be also seen in light with the needs of the research project, with the needs of the fellow. So we know that it can also evolve during the project implementation, but you should really think about meaningful secondments in your proposal. So there is a maximum for standard doctoral networks, but there's no minimum, and it should be feasible and in line with the objective of your research project as well. The next question, so as of the 1st of January 2025, Swiss institutions are eligible as beneficiaries in MSCA doctoral networks, and Julien confirmed as well, with funding provided by SERI. So this is partially true. The eligibility conditions for Swiss participants are that they are fully eligible to participate in the proposals as beneficiary with EU funding, pending the final signature of the association to Horizon Europe. So the rest of the question is about, given that a maximum of 15 doctoral candidates can be funded per project, do the Swiss funded DCs count towards this limit, or are they considered additional and funded separately? Who would like to answer? Sohail?
I'll
Yes?
give it a try. Yeah. So if they are funded by SERI, then they are on top of these 15 doctoral candidates, but they will not be called MSCA fellows. Yeah. So, but yes, they become, let's say, part of the family on top of the 15. Is there another part of the question? Are they considered additional?
No, it's
okay, yeah.
So it's more or less it. I mean, it's what we have now in our current doctoral networks, where indeed some of the doctoral candidates funded by SERI and recruited by Swiss institutions are on top of those 15 fellows. Their individual research projects are described in the proposal and in the description of action, but indeed they are not officially considered as MSCA fellows. The next question is about entities hosting secondments need to be declared as associated partners. So do we need to declare all of them? And what about partners hosting short visits? Michaela?
Of course, as soon as you send a doctoral candidate for a secondment, you need to actually declare to whom the doctoral candidate to go on secondment. So, of course, I mean, if it's she or he sent to an associated partner, this associated partner needs to be included in the proposal and afterwards in the description of action. For partners hosting short visits, I mean, this will depend a little bit on what you mean by short visits, I mean, if there is an added value in this visit, we would recommend you to, of course, include it in the proposal.
Thank you, Michaela. So in the next question, so in the 2025 Guide for Applicants mentioned that in Part A, neither the beneficiaries nor the associated partners need to fill in the list of up to 5 publications, but the Part A still has a publication list column. So the question is if we need to fill in the publication list in Part A. Thanks a lot, Julien.
Yes. So So, I mean, the Part A is corporate for all of Horizon Europe, and indeed there is the list of publications. But for doctoral networks, because you have Part B2, and in Part B2, for each participant and associated partners, you have to describe the available infrastructure, you have to describe the projects, the publications. In order to avoid that you do the work twice, we decided that you do not need to put it in Part A. You just put it in Part B2. Yes, there is the table in Part A, because this is something we cannot change. It's a corporate template, the Part A. But you can still submit without filling in the publication list in Part A. What we instruct also the evaluators is that this list of publication, they have to look at it in Part B2. So it's to avoid that you do the work twice. We said, okay, Part B2 is enough. You don't need to put it also in Part A.
Thank you, Julien. So the next question. So can salary for the supervisors be included in the budget? Important for all those academics who are heavily dependent on external funding for their own salary. So, for example, many in Sweden. Michaela?
Okay, so you're receiving, as Julien explained in the beginning, you receive the salary for the doctoral candidates that you will recruit, and you also have the institutional costs, which cover the research, training, and networking costs, as well as management and indirect costs. Now, we don't actually tell you how to use this budget. This budget will be used if your proposal is funded in order to be able to implement the project as you have foreseen. Now, the salary, I mean, the full salary could not be covered by this institutional cost. Normally, there should be actually a salary which is offered by the academic institution, but it can be used to help the supervisor attend conferences or carry out a number of activities which are, of course, related to the project and which will be beneficial for the project.
Thank you, Michaela. So the next question is, does an associated partner, non-academic, receive funding for hosting doctoral candidate during secondment? How is it budgeted? Julien or Michaela?
I can take it. Yes, an associated partner can receive funding for hosting a doctoral candidate during a secondment. How is it budgeted? So, short answer is, so we don't need to know how it's budgeted. This is something that you decide in the consortium agreement. So you have to decide with the associated partners, with the beneficiaries, how to take part of the institutional category of the unit costs, how you divide that between the beneficiaries. And you could take some of this institutional cost, channel it to this associated partner to cover the cost of them hosting the doctoral candidate during the secondment. This is something you decide in a consortium agreement. You don't need to explain that in the proposal. And it's not something we need to know. It's something that you need to agree on.
And just to complement that, this kind of internal arrangement within your consortium, we highly encourage you to discuss them even before submitting your proposal. So it makes your life usually much easier in case your proposal is selected for funding when it comes to implementation. The next question is about the difference between 3.1.8 implementation risk, template 2024, and the 3.15 project risk, template 2025. Maybe I can take this one for once, Julien. There's no differences in terms of content. Simply the title was updated to better reflect all the project risks that you may have in your project, and not only to describe all the administrative and risk linked to the implementation of your project, but also including all the scientific and technical risks that you could encounter during your project. So this was just a small adaptation of the wording and of the title, but the content should be the same. The next question, is there any matchmaking portal where we can search consortia that are looking for partners and beneficiaries? Yes, Sohail?
Yeah, I mean, I think I assume that participants will have access to the presentation, the PowerPoint, and in Julian's intervention, he included a link to a matchmaking module exactly for this purpose.
Yes, indeed. You have the MSCA matchmaking platform, and you also have the search partners on the Funding and Tenders portal as well. So the next question, in the case of the partner from UK, can the cost of the PhD students' visa and immigration health surcharge be included in the project cost? So this cost is substantial, as the cost of IHS is more than £1,035 per person and per year. Michaela?
Yes. So if your project is selected for funding, you will be indeed asked to recruit a doctoral candidate. And if the doctoral candidate is actually recruited by UK beneficiary, they will need to actually, it's an obligation in the grant agreement to cover the costs of the visa fees, as well as to offer any recruited doctoral candidate, and this is valid everywhere, not only in the UK, with a full employment contract and with full social security corporate. And this is the reason why we provide you with a substantial living allowance, with a mobility allowance, with family allowance, so that you also offer the unemployment contract, which covers all this social security coverage. And with regards to the visa costs, you can use the institutional costs which are offered to you in order to be able to cover the costs.
Thanks a lot for this very complete answer. Maybe one more question before the short break. How is geographical distribution counted, if at all? Julien?
Yes, well, no, it's not counted. I mean, what's counted for the consortium is what's evaluated is the capacity of each consortium member and the complementarity of all the consortium members. So it doesn't matter the geographical distribution. Of course, if you have a very specific project where you need to tackle, I don't know, 3 different geographical areas and you're missing one in your consortium, I mean, that could have an influence on your evaluation. But other than that, geographical distribution is not counted.
Okay, the next question, so one more question. Are the administration indirect costs fully covered by the funding? The organizational costs for administration indirect costs are about 50% in some cases. Michaela?
Okay, it's actually a unit cost. If you remember from the presentation given by Julien, you have actually a unit cost for management and indirect costs. And I mean, whether it covers the full administrative cost of your organization, that's another story. But we give you a unit cost based on the number of person months you will be recruiting a doctoral candidate.
Thank you very much, Michaela. And now, before continuing this Q&A session, let's have a very short coffee break. Let's resume this session in 7 minutes. Yes, very precisely. And let's finish now with the second part of the Q&A session. You can still submit your questions in Slido, and see you then in 7 minutes. Stay tuned.
What is MSCA? The Marie Skłodowska-Curie Actions are the European Union's reference funding programme for doctoral education and postdoctoral training. They support researchers from all over the world, in all scientific domains and at all stages of their careers. They equip researchers with new knowledge and skills and encourage their mobility between countries, disciplines and sectors in and outside academia. They offer attractive working and employment conditions. The MSCA also contribute to developing excellent doctoral and postdoctoral programs and boost research collaboration worldwide. They increase the global visibility and attractiveness of organizations. By supporting innovative research, the program contributes to finding innovative solutions to the challenges faced by our societies. The 5 MSCA actions. Whether you are an individual researcher, an organization, or a staff member, the MSCA have something for you. Through its doctoral networks, the MSCA enable academic and non-academic organizations to collaborate and create excellent doctoral programs with a strong international dimension. Doctoral networks include industrial doctorates, which allow PhD candidates to train beyond academia, and joint doctorates, which deliver joint training programs and degrees from several organizations. Doctoral networks provide creative and entrepreneurial doctoral candidates with research-related and transferable skills and a focus on open science and innovation. Through the postdoctoral fellowships, researchers can develop their own research proposal with the host organization of their choice. This allows them to pursue their research and follow advanced training with leading organizations in their field, acquiring new and transferable skills in academia or in the non-academic sector. Researchers can choose between European fellowships or global fellowships, enabling them to gain international experience either in Europe or in any country of the world. Under Co-Fund, an organization can get co-funding for its own doctoral or postdoctoral programs at regional, national, or international level if it follows the excellence principles and working conditions of the MSCA. Co-Fund promotes excellent training and career development for researchers, thus spreading MSCA best practices to new or existing schemes. Through its staff exchanges, the MSCA enable organizations to exchange research and innovation staff worldwide in the framework of joint projects. This includes researchers, as well as technical, managerial, or administrative staff. Staff exchanges allow knowledge transfers among disciplines and between academia and the non-academic sector. Finally, through the MSCA and Citizens Initiative, organizations can bring research closer to the public by organizing activities and events during the European Researchers' Night. By doing so, they highlight the role of research for society and the economy, as well as the impact of researchers' work on citizens' daily lives, raising young people's interest for research and scientific careers. Marie Skłodowska-Curie actions.
Welcome back to this DN 2025 Call Info event and to the second part of the Q&A session. So let's kickstart the second part with the next question. So should the research data management plan be mentioned in another section as it's not required as a specific section anymore? Julien?
Yes, indeed. So the research data management plan is not required anymore. I mean, it will be a compulsory deliverable when the project starts, but it's not required anymore. So you don't have to mention it in another section. Just pay attention that the open science is still there, and there are some elements of open science that kinds of leaks into, the data management plan of the research. So, I mean, this part should still be there, but the research data management plan is not, doesn't need to be mentioned anywhere.
Thank you, Julien. The next question is about the fact that we mentioned the standard and industrial doctoral network project lasts 4 years, but the PhD fellowship is only 3. Since funding is based on contribution per person month, does that mean that the fourth year isn't funded? So is it the project duration 4 years, but funding only covers 3? Sohail, you would like to?
Yeah, so yes, indeed, for the standard and the industrial doctorates, the maximum project duration is 4 years, and the maximum fellowship duration is 3 years. But the amount of unit contributions that the proposal or the project gets is not connected to the length of the individual fellowships. In the proposal, the consortium asks for a total amount of, or a total number of person month. And they divide this according to the needs of the project, meaning that is, as we mentioned briefly before, not all fellowships will take the maximum amount, but it is the amount or the funding is actually what the proposal asks for when they apply, and then they divide it meaning the length and the number of fellowships within the consortium. It's a decision made internally by the consortium.
And just maybe to summarize in general with what we see also in our doctoral networks in general, and we've encouraged it as well, each beneficiary gives a maximum fellowship duration to the doctoral candidate, so meaning 36 months in the case of standard DN and industrial doctorates, and up to 48 months for joint doctorates. So the next question is my field of study primary, secondary education and transition to tertiary education labor market does not really have a corresponding industry. Is this a problem regarding the guidelines, strong collaboration with industry and SMEs? Who would like? I can try to reply to this one. So, indeed, we in standard doctoral networks, the involvement of the non-academic sector is highly encouraged, but is not mandatory per se. In industrial doctorates, it's mandatory since the doctoral candidates need to spend at least 50% of their time in the non-academic sector. But as Julien presented earlier, the non-academic sector is wider than industry. So meaning that it comprises not only industry, big companies and SMEs, but also NGOs, some museums, some hospitals sometimes. So you have to really check what is defining as a non-academic sector, and in general we try to cover all the research domain, including the domains where the industry might be a bit less involved. The next question is, what are the expectations in terms of industrial participation in standard DN? Is there a recommended number of non-academic beneficiaries to be involved in a standard DN consortium? Julien?
Yes. So the first thing to notice is that, in terms of participation, I mean, there is no recommended number. That's the first thing. But non-academic entities, they can participate as associated partners. They don't necessarily need to participate as beneficiaries. Now, even in standard DN, I mean, there's non-academic involvement is important. It's one of the key aspects of doctoral networks, and it's something that is evaluated. So the involvement of the non-academic sector is important in all types of actions, and not only in the industrial doctorate. Now, in terms of number, I want to say it's not the number that counts, is what they actually do in the project. So, whatever helps fellows enlarge their employability in different sectors through, secondment in the non-academic sector, or, specific trainings, transversal training in different areas like entrepreneurship, for instance, or things like that. Those are things that are, important for their career perspectives and employability. So it's important to have non-academic participation, I insist, so not necessarily industrial, but non-academic participation in all the doctoral networks.
And maybe just to complement that, in terms of non-academic sector participation, in our funded doctoral networks, we have a bit of everything and any kind of setup. So sometimes a strong participation as beneficiary, but sometimes only academic as beneficiary, and the non-academic sector participating as associated partner. So we have a mix of everything. So there's no standard recipe. So the next question is about a co-supervisor. So can there be a co-supervisor from outside the network? Who would like to answer this one? Michaela?
Okay. Well, we usually request that a supervisor are from the beneficiaries or associated partners. Now, because not only we want them to be committed to the supervision of the doctoral candidates that will be recruited, we want also to be able to, they should also be able, because they are committed to the project, to commit enough of their time to be offered the proper supervision. So from outside the network is absolutely not recommended. If they would like to ask somebody who's very relevant for a doctoral candidate from outside the network, we would then recommend to add this entity in which this co-supervisor is employed as an associated partner to the project in order to ensure their full association.
Thank you, Michaela. So the next question. With which funds can tuition fees in northern countries be covered? Are they also adjusted with a coefficient? Julien, you want to answer?
Yes. So I assume behind the question, the point is that tuition fees, maybe in some countries, are higher than in other countries. So it's not adjusted with the coefficient. The only aspect of the unit cost that's affected by a coefficient is the salary of the fellow. The fellows should not have to pay for tuition fees, so it has to be paid by the project. And so you can use the institutional cost to pay for the tuition fees, but it's not affected by the coefficient, so it will take more than in countries where the tuition fees is lower, indeed.
Thank you, Julien. Next question, can the secondment be outside the consortium? So I can take this one. The secondment, there is a reply. The first reply is no. So any secondments, especially at proposal stage, cannot be outside the consortium. So the fellow are expected to work full-time and 100% of the time in the project, which means that in case of a secondment, it should be also within the consortium. So with another beneficiary, at another associated partner, partner. But of course, during the project implementation, we know that the research project can evolve, the needs of the fellows can evolve as well. And in those cases, we generally also accept some changes or the addition of new associated partner to cover this kind of new opportunities for the doctoral fellows during the project implementation. But this is always with the prior approval of the project officer from our side in charge of your project. The next question, can SMEs be integrated purely for the training for soft skills courses like science communication? Sohail? Yes?
Yes. I mean, of course, in general, any legal entity can participate if their activities are relevant to the project. And here, of course, I mean, that's a case where it's very likely that there would be a relevance, and I'm sure the consortium would be able to demonstrate it clearly in the proposal. But again, the short answer again is yes. But of course, it has to be a suitable fit for the rest of the project.
Thank you, Sohail. Next question, do museums and other research centers count as non-academic even though they are public institutions? Julien?
Yes, so it depends. I mean, basically, you need to see how these particular entities were validated based on the data that they provided to the validation services. It's not about public or private. It's more about, I mean, as a hint, but then again, it has to be seen how they were validated. As a rule of thumb, usually it's the for-profit aspect that counts. So if it's a for-profit research center, that would be a non-academic. If it's a private, not for-profit research center, that would be academic. And the same goes for museums. Usually museums, for-profit museums, would be non-academic, but even though they are public, but if they are non-profit museums, then usually they would be academic. But then again, it's on a case-by-case basis. You have to check how these institutions are validated in the system.
Thank you very much, Julien. So the next question is about if a consortium is made of only young principal investigators, for example, newly appointed professors valued in the review process, should the consortium include an advisory board of more senior researchers as a good way to ensure the reviewers that the proposal is sound? Yes, Sohail?
Yeah, I mean, so the stage of let's say of the participants at the proposal stage, that is of the beneficiaries and also the associated partners, so their stage of career is not a criterion. We only know that afterwards, when a successful project starts hiring or looking for doctoral candidates, generally they are young and in an early stage. But those who actually apply and write the proposal, which is the beneficiaries or the associated partners in association, this criterion is not part of the story.
Maybe just to add something, is that for supervisors, there is one sub-criterion, that's 1.4, I think, which is quality of supervision, where you have to describe the supervisory experience of the supervisors. So obviously, a supervisor who has never supervised any PhD fellows might score less points than a supervisor who has more experience in supervising PhD fellows. That would be the only place where the supervisors as persons would be evaluated.
Thanks a lot, Sohail and Julien. So the next question is diversity in different aspects, gender, age, countries involved, a key factor? Julien?
Short answer is yes and no. So it's a bit of a cryptic answer. So it is a factor in as much as it has links with the research topic you're tackling. So if diversity is important in the research topic that you're tackling, it's important that you show that you take this diversity into account. So much as the gender dimension, if there's a age dimension or the geographical dimension that is pertinent to your research topic, you should show that you address these diversity aspects. And I said no because, well, in itself, diversity is not an evaluation criterion, except for execos when the gender balance of the supervisors come into play. But, gender, age, countries, these are not things that are evaluated, except if those are important for the research topics that you're tackling.
Thank you very much, Julien. So the next question, if you're eligible to reapplying with a proposal from the end 2024, is it possible to rename the proposal or to change the name acronym of the proposal? So I can maybe take this one. So indeed, if you're not impacted by the resubmission restrictions, you can reapply, you can decide to change and to rename your proposal. Of course, it's up to you as a consortium to decide on this when writing your proposal. The only thing is that you will need to still self-declare that your proposal is a resubmission. In general, we also double-check from our side all proposals. So in case of self-declaration, we can check more easily, but we also check the one not self-declaring, so just to make sure that everyone is respecting the resubmission restriction. But in your case, there is no specific rules to follow on this. So next question, in the joint doctorate networks, do all doctoral candidates need to get a joint doctorate, or can some have a standard doctoral degree or others having joint doctorate? So here, this is for you.
Yeah, all of them, all of the doctoral candidates have to get either joint or double or multiple doctorates. Yeah. You cannot have mixed consortia.
Yes, indeed. Then the flexibility that you may have is that some of the doctoral candidates can have joint doctorates while others may have double or multiple degrees. So on this we are flexible, but not on the other one. The next question, are industrial doctorates evaluated by industrial experts? Julien?
Yes, but not only. So indeed, when allocating proposals to experts, the industrial doctorates in the trio of experts, so remember each proposal is evaluated by 3 different experts. There would be at least one of the 3 experts would be someone from the non-academic sector or someone having experience in the non-academic sector. Sometimes you have professors with, on the side, a very extensive experience in the industry, and those would also qualify as industrial experts. So yes, they are evaluated by industrial experts, but by a mix of different people. It would be very rare that they would be evaluated by 3 industrial experts, because there is also the PhD supervision, the training, all things that are important in doctoral networks that maybe some industrial experts might have less confidence in assessing.
Thanks a lot, Julien. The next question is there any flexibility to make small adjustments to individual PhD projects after the application is submitted? Michaela?
So no, after the straight answer is no. After the application is submitted, you cannot do anything anymore. But let's say that you get funded then it would be possible to make some small adjustments if they're justified. But during the application process, you can't change anything.
Thanks a lot, Michaela. The next question, I'm coordinating a proposal with 5 competing companies as beneficiaries or partners. They want to protect their background and results. As a non-profit coordinator, how can we best ensure proper protection for all parties involved? Any suggestions? So on this one, I can highly recommend you to also contact the IP help desk because they can provide a lot of support and a lot of advice on how to ensure all your the handling of all your IP issues during your project implementation. And I highly encourage you as well to discuss all these issues early enough, so when you're preparing your proposal, in order to make sure that you tackle all of them in your consortium agreement. So this is crucial to make sure to sort out all these issues early enough and much before the results of the evaluation. The next question is for joint doctorates. Can there be additional beneficiaries not taking part in the joint degrees? For example, 4 beneficiaries with 2 joint degree programs plus 3 partners without. Julien?
Yes, it is possible. I mean, the rule says that for the consortium, you need to have at least 3 PhD awarding entities, at least 1 from a member state, and each fellow have to be enrolled in a joint double or multiple. But it's possible to have beneficiaries not delivering PhDs, hiring a fellow, and this fellow would then be enrolled in another entity from the consortium. Sometimes you also have associated partners whose role in the project is simply for the enrollment of the doctoral degree, and that's perfectly fine. That's a valid role for them in the project.
Thanks a lot, Julien. The next question, I coordinate the MSCA DN 2023. Can I submit a new proposal in the call DN 2025 as a coordinator? Michaela?
Okay, so the simple answer is indeed yes, you can. That's not a problem, since it's also a new proposal. We just need to just ensure that you have actually the time necessary and the commitment to follow up 2 projects, because it's quite a lot of work. It takes a lot of time. So, I mean, if you have the operational and the financial capacity, please go ahead. And maybe you can even find synergies between the projects in case the one of 25 is actually funded.
Thanks a lot, Michaela. The next question, a low to middle income country can be registered as full beneficiary. However, the DC needs to be enrolled in a doctoral program in an EU member state or associated country. Does it require any specific official agreement documents between the 2 entities? Who would like to answer this one? Julien?
Yes. So yes, you got that absolutely right. So they still need to, I mean, they can be recruited by a low to middle income country. However, they have to be enrolled in a doctoral program in the member state or associated country. We do not need to have specific documents or agreements between the member state PhD awarding entity and the low to middle income country institution that recruited the doctoral candidate. We just need to know that the fellow was enrolled in a PhD in a member state or associated country.
Thank you, Julien.
Just to add, just for completion, that in case of joint doctorates, you will need the agreement that applies to all joint doctorates, because now we need to mention that now that 3rd non-associated countries can be the second partner in a joint doctorate. And here, yes, they would need the agreement.
Yes, indeed, Sohail. Thank you. So the next question is about gender equality plan. So if a participant does not have a gender equality plan in place before the call deadline, so what happens? Does it have an impact on the evaluation? So I can maybe shortly reply to this one. So in those cases, no, it doesn't have any impact on the evaluation, and we don't check that a gender equality plan is in place at proposal stage. But indeed, this is something that we will check in case your proposal is selected for funding. So during the grant agreement preparation, we will check this gender equality plan, and we should make sure that all beneficiaries who would need to have it in place during the grant agreement preparation should have it in place before the signature of the grant agreement. So not before the call deadline, but before the end of the grant agreement preparation phase. The next question, so are the budget for institutions included in unit cost calculation per doctoral candidate or per institution or per month of the project only? Michaela?
I can try to, so for each doctoral candidate that you will recruit, let's say that you recruit a doctoral candidate for 36 months, you will have different unit contributions. The first one will be for the salary, then for a mobility allowance, for family if it's applicable, and then you will have the institutional contributions, which cover the research, training, and networking costs, as well as the management and unit costs. And those contributions, the institutional contributions, are for the full duration of the fellowship. So it's the amount you have seen in the table, which Julien has showed in his presentation, multiplied in my particular example by 36.
Thank you, Michaela. The next question, are there any age limits for applicants? Is there a time limit from the master's degree to apply? Julien?
Yes, I would assume by applicant you mean doctoral candidates, right? Because there is no age limit for the supervisors of the, they still need to be working, of course, but otherwise there is no age limit. And for doctoral candidates, there is no age limits neither. The conditions is that they should not have a doctoral degree at the time you recruit them, and they should have been mobile. They should not have spent more than 12 months in your country, in the country of your institution, in the past 3 years.
Thank you, Julien. So also, is it possible for a coordinator to submit 2 complementary but not overlapping proposals for one call? So on this one, I can shortly answer that indeed, it's as Michaela also mentioned earlier, so you can, but of course we will also check if there's no overlap, since we avoid also double funding. So the thing is that what you cannot do is to submit the same proposal several times in the same call, so this is not possible, and we also have the means to double check this. And of course you should be able, in case you coordinate and you get funded also for 2 different proposals or more than one, you should be able to make sure that you have enough time and enough commitment to be able to coordinate both projects. So this is something possible, but with some constraints already mentioned earlier by Michaela. The next question. We are planning for the regular DN proposals when the PhD candidates, if they take on a longer placement. How does this occur in a practical sense? And do they have more time to complete their PhD in this case? Who would like to answer this one? Julien? Yeah.
Well, under the standard DN or any kind of DN, there's a maximum duration of the fellowship and the ceiling for the overall project. So if there was a fellow that was foreseen for 36 months, I mean, the budget you have at the beginning is what you will get in total. So it's not possible to say receive extra funding for another 6 months for this fellow. This is just not possible. I don't know if I understood.
Maybe Michaela.
Just maybe to complement, I mean, let's say that indeed, I mean, like Julien said, the fellowship duration is limited to 36 months, but let's say that at the end of a project, you realize that you have unspent institutional costs. I mean, they could be used, for example, to cover the longer placement. And they would not be declared in the project because, of course, the limitation is 36 months, but you're free to use them if possible, and if you have implemented everything as planned.
Thank you, Michaela. Can we contract an external company to manage the project, even if they cannot host PhD candidates? Michaela?
Yes, the answer is no, actually. The management of the project, the coordination of the project is the sole responsibility of the coordinator, and this task cannot be subcontracted to somebody else. Of course, you can have an external company for, I don't know, for creating a website or for non-essential task, but for managing the project, no.
Thank you, Michaela. So the next question, will reviewers of the DN 2024 proposal be asked to review a resubmission in DN 2025, or is the distribution of reviewers all from scratch? Julien?
Yes. So short answer, it's all from scratch. So if you submit a proposal for the DN 2025, your proposals will be allocated to experts based on the expertise of the experts, the interdisciplinarities, the sectors, and things like that. But we will not pick the same reviewers from 2024 to evaluate your proposals for 2025. So each proposal is evaluated independently with a new set of evaluators.
Thank you, Julien. Next question, could we transfer money from different categories within the project? For example, if I need more materials than we expect but consume less for analysis, could we transfer the money from analysis to materials? Michaela?
Okay. So, I mean, this is part of the institutional cost, and it's up to you to decide how to use it. And so, of course, yes, you could actually transfer the money from analysis to materials if needed for the project, if it's justified. And, of course, you won't even have to report it back to us because we don't verify, actually, this information.
And maybe just to complement, I mean, we don't have that detailed, we don't have, budget for analysis, budget for material. We have budget for research and training costs. So analysis and material for us is just in the same pot of money. So you can transfer whatever you want between those two.
Yes, and one other thing, I mean, if your project is funded, it's very important to bear in mind that you can also, there are two different cost categories, the one which are for the recruited doctoral candidates and the one which is for the institutions. While you cannot actually transfer money between cost categories, but within the same category, you can actually play around.
Thanks a lot to the both of you. For the full answer. And we are now reaching the last question of today's session. So the question is, scientific excellence counts most, 50% in the scoring, as mentioned in the presentation. How about training? Which one might expect to be even more prominent in training projects? Who would like to answer this last question? It can be also joint answer. So here, you want to start?
I can start. Well, I mean, I think the good news is that the training aspect is part of the excellence part. So I think it's very consistent. Yeah.
Yes, indeed. I mean, if you check the sub-criteria, the training part is part of the excellence criterion. So doctoral networks should be strong in research, but also strong in training. So it's not only a training project, it's not only a research project, it's a research and training project.
Thanks a lot. Michaela, anything to add?
You stole my line.
Yes.
I wanted to say the training program.
Yes. Indeed. So thank you for these questions. So we have tried now to reply to as many questions as we could today, but of course we know that we still received many and for which we didn't have time to reply. So we will try to pool them and to analyze all of them very shortly so that we can publish all the answers to the most recurrent questions in the RTD platform, so where you connected to follow this event. We will also publish the presentation, so all the slides will be available as well. The recording of this full info session will also be available, and we will also add the link to the recording and all documents in the call page on the Funding and Tenders portal. So I would like to thank you all again for your very active participation and all your questions that you have submitted. I really hope that you received some useful information to prepare your application. And I would like also to thank a lot all the speakers with me today. So Sohail, Julien, and Michaela, but also Klaus and Claire. As well as all my colleagues involved in the organization of this event. And let me finish this session with 5 final tips for you. So don't forget to read the guidance, follow the templates, and this is a new template this year, so I highly encourage you to really follow this new template. Write clearly, as Julien mentioned earlier, write for an evaluator. Submit on time. Every year we have few unfortunate cases which could not submit by the deadline, so make sure to submit early enough, and perform a final check of your proposal even after submission. You will avoid some bad surprises then sometimes. And with this, I wish you all the best, and I thank you again for your attention. Thank you.